Eloise in Iowa, you're on with Dennis and Matt.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Sorry.
Doing all right. What's up?
I probably, I'd say within the last year, have been very comfortable identifying as an atheist.
All right.
And initially it was a little more turbulent, I would say, feeling like I'm losing something in terms of an afterlife.
That's a familiar story,
But,
yes.
Yeah. And there's more to lose, too, because this sort of thing ends up breaking up relationships. There are people who've lost their entire family and social structure, and that's serious. That's like grieving, 30 deaths at once is how some people have described it.
Well, so that's kind of what I'd like to talk about and ask you if that's all right.
Sure.
Yes.
So my parents actually just came to town earlier today, and I had a conversation with them trying to explain how my reasons for leaving, for questioning in the first place, and then ultimately leaving religion behind.
Right.
Right.
And a large part of that was being a part of the LGBT community and growing up Baptist.
Yeah.
And just feeling unaccepted and, I guess, persecuted, to be honest.
Yeah, and actually, I feel bad about this now, but it was an important life lesson. There was a point where I was going to come out to my family as atheist, and at one point I was jokingly going to sit them down and say, "Mom, Dad, I'm gay." And then when they freaked out, I was going to be like, "No, I'm not gay. I'm just an atheist." And at that point in time in my head, I don't know that I would have ever actually done that, but it seemed like a potentially clever way to soften it. And then I realized that, no, that's just me being shitty, because there's nothing wrong with either one of them.
Right.
And I'm playing into their perception that something is potentially more wrong about one than the other. And that was a complete garbage idea that I would never do now. Although, at the time it felt like something that was humorous because I'm not in that affected class. And when I met a number of my friends who've been on the show who are both part of the LGBT community and atheists, almost all of them said it was harder to come out as atheist than it was to come out as LGBT. And
there's more apologetics against coming out as atheist.
Yeah, and in your case, having to deal with both, I'm curious about what your experience has been with that and what you're specifically worried about today.
So I came out as bisexual first.
Uh-huh.
And that wasn't, I'm in my mid-20s, and it was in my early 20s when I came out. Basically after having left home and really experienced the world, I grew up pretty sheltered.
Mm-hmm.
And I was basically told, well, you don't need to act on it. And yeah.
Oh.
And that I can't even describe the amount of pain that's caused me.
Yeah. Anytime somebody's going to tell you, if their response is, well, you don't have to be who you are, I don't think they have the first clue, because in many cases they're looking at that as the love the sin, hate the sinner thing. So God has given you this burden to deal with regard to your gender identity or your sexuality or whatever else. But that's a test that God has given to you, and you don't have to act on it. And actually you will be a more dutiful, righteous servant of Christ if you don't. So God gave you this obstacle to make you stronger. Well, what a dick. First of all, if God ever did that, God's a dick. But whether or not a God did it, anybody who's making...
Sorry.
What's that?
I said that was the conclusion I came to.
Yeah. But what's worse is we don't even have to consider whether or not there's a God or whether or not a God did this, because I don't have any reason to believe there's a God, and everybody who tells me what God thinks is just them telling me what God thinks. But the people who make excuses for that, the people who have bought into this hook, line, and sinker, they might actually be as bad or worse even if there was a God, because they're sacrificing their humanity and what they know and understand about reality in order to serve an idea that they can't even demonstrate is real or good.
Right. So they have come around a little bit with me being bisexual, but not really. It's more of just, there's churches that do accept that kind of thing. And so today when I was telling them, I'm happier as an atheist because I'm not made to feel shame about who I am anymore.
Right.
I can enjoy life.
I bet I could predict their response, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, so my dad said, and then that's when my dad brought up the LGBT church. He's like, well, I understand why you feel pushed away from religion. I was the victim of abuse when I was younger, and they understand that, and so he said he understands, but he thinks that I should still try to find a church that fits me. And I don't know how to explain to him, and my mom for that matter, that it's not even that, like, it's not even the issue of I think God's a dick if he exists, and even if he doesn't, he's still a dick, just as a fictional character can be a dick.
Yeah. I will say,
but
so I'm terribly sad about the abuse, and not merely because it happens, because that is bad enough, but it will complicate what's going on now, because the normative thing for many people who have been raised in an antiquated paradigm is that, oh, that abuse now defines you and who you are, and it's why you have these thoughts. It's why you are the person you are, and it's why you're rejecting a God. It all ties back to that, and that's going to make things worse. I am happy that your dad was I appreciate the fact that your dad was at least willing to point you towards churches that would be more accepting and inclusive. That speaks a lot about your dad, that because there are other people who, the second they had this conversation, they'd be ostracized from the family, and you're just a sinful garbage reprobate, and of course you don't want to worship God because that'll convict you of your sinful nature and all that. So it's nice that your dad seems to be doing much better than other people would. The problem is, I suspect, and this is just a bit of a guess, that he just doesn't understand and doesn't have the tools to know how to deal with this, so he's trying to give the best advice he can, and it seems like probably he wants you in a community so that you're not alone and with people who are supportive, and he just doesn't know any other options other than, well, there's a church down the street that does this. Because if he was too serious of a believer, like my parents, if I came out as gay or trans or whatever, they'd never say, oh, well, there's a church down the street that is okay with that. They are so strict fundamentalists that those churches are of the devil. They are not good church. So the fact that your dad's at least that far is encouraging, and I hope that you can continue to kind of make him see, no, this isn't just rebellion, and it's not. While I do need community, it's not necessarily a religious community I need.
Right.
What I need are people, irrespective of their views on gods, who care about me and value me for me.
Right. And it's funny, you actually were completely correct when you said my sexuality being attributed to the abuse. My mother likes to use that a lot. She's less understanding than my dad, and would not give that same suggestion.
Are your mom and dad still together?
They are still together.
Wow, there's some interesting discussions going on there. I'm all in favor. I mean, they're your parents. And I cut my parents a lot of slack over the years because I realized that this was something that was done to them in the same way that it was done to me. It's not that they are intentionally malicious or hateful. They've been trained to see the world through a very particular lens. And when you don't see through that same lens, it's terrifying. Not just of, the fundamentalist view of, oh, well, you're a sinner and you're going to go to hell and I'm not going to see you in the afterlife. It's terrifying because it raises concerns in their head that maybe they're wrong. Because one of the things that people in my family had a difficult time dealing with is their old perception of who atheists were. We were sinful, evil people. They,
Right.
like as the Psalm says, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt and can do no good thing. And that was the mindset. That puts them in a position where they have a son who they know, who they love, who they know is a decent person who wants to help people. They know is somebody who does not lie, or rarely lies. I mean, everybody lies, but I'm generally honest, and I try to do things. I'm working for charitable efforts. I'm honest about what I believe, and they know and have watched me do good things as an atheist, things that they have to acknowledge are good. And this puts them in a position of saying, hang on, if our son who's an atheist is able to do these good things, then that means the psalmist is wrong, which may mean that God is wrong, which may mean that I'm wrong. And that's a terrifying position to be in. So I try to be as compassionate as I can to realize that this is something that was done to them as well. But also I was willing to cut them entirely out of my life if necessary, if they would not stop being a toxic influence. Because whether you're blood related to somebody is completely irrelevant. If someone is making your life worse, they don't need to be a part of your life. But if they're making your life worse and claiming that it's love, you have got to find the time to put your foot down to say, I love you. I love you enough that I've put up with this type of stuff for a while. I would like for us to have the kind of relationship where we could talk about the things we like and enjoy and share. And I know that when you go off privately, you're still going to judge me. But stop doing it in front of me because you are doing real harm. It is not love. The thing that you're talking about where, we do this from love, that's the same crap that happens in spousal. He hits me because he loves me, the spousal abuse stuff. It's all about correction. It's all about they can't be wrong and they can't face the possibility that that might be the case. And so they're going to take it out on you. You don't have to put up with that. And there are communities and people that you can reach out to make sure that you are in a place where that's not going to happen. I understand. I don't ever want to cut my parents out of my life. There are family members who I love and despise what they think. And I don't want to remove them from my life as long as we can continue to have a relationship where things are productive and good. But the second they're a toxic influence, I don't care if it's a parent, if it's someone I'm in a romantic relationship with, if it's someone who's a friend or co-host or whatever else, I don't have to take that, neither do you. And so the first thing is for you to look out for your mental health, your physical health, to find the communities, whether it's a LGBT-friendly church, whether it's a secular community, wherever it is that you find what you need, where you are not being badgered and judged, and people who have no experience making medical diagnoses are talking about how this is a result of trauma or you're in rebellion. All that stuff has to find its way out of your life before you're going to be able to just breathe.
Right. So, yeah, and I don't feel like I need a church. And I guess I'm wondering if you have any advice on how to tell them that.
This is going to be terrible, but tell them. I find straightforward honesty, even if it's just potentially going to be initially shocking, to probably be the best course of action. If it comes up again, just tell them, I don't believe in these things, and I don't feel the need to be in a church. I do feel a need perhaps to have community, but if that community is one where we agree on one thing and disagree on other things, I just want a community where I can be me without judgment, without harassment. Even if there was a church that would give me that, I don't share their views on God and religion. And anybody who loves you, yes, there may be some who are going to have a terrible initial reaction, but anybody who loves you should be able to take on board, this is the way you feel, this is what you want, this is who you are, and they should care more about whether or not you're happy than whether or not you're godly.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Absolutely. And by all means, call us back and touch base. Let us know how it goes. Also, I would reach out to local communities in your area, both secular organizations, LGBTQIA plus whatever, however many we're adding on to those, because I don't know where anybody fits and I don't want to necessarily leave anybody out, but there's tons of communities like that. And as you make this transition, just remember you can always reach out to Recovering from Religion, the Secular Therapy Project, and actually talk to experts who are going to give you better advice than I will.
I'm not an expert. I've led an incredibly privileged life. I've never had to come out about anything. And so it's like I feel incredibly underqualified to try and respond to people like this.
And I've done it wrong.
I can offer my sympathy, but I can't. I don't know what it feels like from the inside.
Yeah. But
did you grow up an atheist?
Huh? Me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was a little kid, I thought religion was like Santa Claus for grown-ups, that nobody really believed it. It was just sort of entertainment. And later in the Boy Scouts, I discovered that I was the only person standing, upright when everybody else had their heads bowed. And I went, oh, crap, people actually believe this.
Yeah.
And that was that, yeah. No, my folks never pushed any religion on me or anything. Science fiction and stuff got me through high school and that. So, yeah, no, I didn't have to come out as anything to anyone. And so I've just been incredibly lucky.
But by all means, depending on what you decide to do, how you decide to handle it, I'd love to hear how it went. You're free to call us back, or you or anybody else can email tv@atheist-community.org to let us know. Hopefully you find a way to be happy and safe.
Yes, thank you so much for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Yeah. You talk about, this is both of us have lived incredibly privileged lives in a number of different categories. You never had to come out. On the other hand, and you don't carry the baggage of that religious stuff.
That's the thing, yeah.
I mean, I'm 50 now and still discovering baggage I didn't even think I was dealing with.
Yeah, I feel totally unqualified, and I mention that, and people say, oh, don't worry, you were lucky.
Yeah.
I go, okay.